that the plane has landed right now. We can see it right there, landing there at the Lawson Army Airfield in Fort Moore before the motorcade departs and heads down to Maranatha Baptist Church, where we talked about there in Plains, Georgia. So it's a quick flight from the nation's capital, making it here. And I know that you and Jeff Hullinger and also Jonathan Martin were here, and you saw a lot of the ceremony in Washington, D.C. And, you know, just talk about the love that you saw and you heard coming from, not the pulpit, but just from that cathedral there.
Well, the cathedral in of itself is just so beautiful. It's an incredible structure that has been the site of numerous funerals for presidents, 5 presidents to be exact, and a number of services and ceremonies connected to inaugurations over the years. Lots of memorials there. Woodrow Wilson is buried there. Helen Keller is buried there. So the cathedral itself is storied and has its own unique and beautiful history. It's so absolutely gorgeous to witness the casket being brought in down that very long aisle in the middle of the cathedral as Ambassador Young read scripture. And then we saw a number of people give eulogies. The son of Gerald Ford gave a beautiful eulogy for President Carter, speaking his father's words. Of course, President Carter and Gerald Ford became very, very close friends, as did their families, even though they were political opponents. But there was a bipartisan friendship there that lasted through the years. President Carter ultimately gave the eulogy for Gerald Ford. They had both agreed that they would give eulogies for each other. They just didn't know who was, who was going to be the last one standing. As it turned out, Gerald Ford passed away before President Carter, and it was Ford's son who spoke so eloquently, reading his father's words. And then Walter Mondale's son also spoke highly. Walter Mondale, of course, the vice president of President Carter during the Carter administration. One term, but they mostly got along. Walter Mondale, a little bit more liberal when it came to the budget than President Carter was, and so there was a little tension there between them, but they were very, very close. And Walter Mondale's son remarked of how much respect President Carter gave him as vice president, which doesn't always happen between the president and the vice president. And then, of course, we heard from Jason Carter and family members who spoke so lovingly about their father and grandfather, and told funny stories as well about the man who remained humble even though he was president.